Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today I'd like to talk about what I think that Pathfinder 2e needs the most in future books. While I'm obviously looking forward to new classes, ancestry, and spells, I think that they shouldn't be Paizo's top priority. Rather, there's a pretty big selection of feats that I don't think have been represented nearly enough in Paizo's recent books. General feats and skill feats. Literally every character can qualify for these most of the time, and I really don't feel like there's enough diversity yet. Now, that isn't to say that current skill feats and general feats are bad, not at all actually. Rather, my issue is that there are only so many good feats to pick from currently, which leads to what could be an interesting character choice ending up feeling pretty bland. Like, you hit level 3 and you finally get a choice of a brand new general feat. And you're probably going to pick either Fleet, Improved Initiative, or Toughness, since those are by far the most broadly helpful of all of the general feats. I'm not saying that those three feats are problematic for being good, I just wish that there were other options that might be more interesting and provide some interesting competition. There's actually a very similar problem with skill feats. There are a pretty broad range of skill feats, but a lot of them aren't very good or apply to mechanical situations that most games are just going to ignore. Take, for example, group coercion. It allows for you to curse more than one person at a time with intimidation, but most of the time people are just going to ignore that one person limit even if you don't have the skill feat. It's just easier in play. So in that case, why take group coercion in the first place when you could take intimidating glare for a great boost in combat? Having more skill feats in general would help add diversity to skills that already have a bunch of skill feats, while also really helping out skills that have not nearly as many good feats and a lot of really bad ones. In the future, I'd like to see new skill feats to follow along the same lines as the ones that were added in the Dark Archive, where they're all tied to a central theme that might not actually work for all characters, but is very cool for the characters that fit with it. We already have a bunch of super general use skill feats that can apply to a bunch of different characters, but I'd love to see a ton more like Skeptic's Defense, which are weird as hell, only fit a couple of character concepts, but are so much fun. When it comes to general feats though, the wide is completely open for what's possible, and not many of the current general feats actually live up to that possibility. To put it bluntly, most general feats are boring as all hell, and don't actually resemble any kind of defining character trait. Like, having the Fleet feat is very useful mechanically, but it's not like being fast makes a character interesting all on its own. Nice and boring feats like Fleet are absolutely necessary though, so I'm not complaining that much that they exist, I just want there to be more options. A good example of what I'd like to see in general feats going forward is actually breath control. It's a very situational feat that allows you to hold your breath for an insanely long time and gives bonuses against inhaled threats. It's absurdly situational, but it is very fun. It gives you, again, a very situational ability, but it more importantly just adds a bit of life and color to your character that, while it's not very strong mechanically, is just really funny. And that's what I'm after for general feats. Earlier I said that there was a ton of room for cool general feat design, so I'm just going to toss out some of the ideas that I have real quick that I think would be interesting. Let me know if they sound horribly broken or not. Alright, so imagine a bunch of feats that are all based on saving throws, but completely separate from your actual class. So maybe there's one that requires that you're a master in reflex saves, that allows for you to voluntarily move 5 feet whenever you succeed against a damaging effect like a fireball. Or maybe one that revolves around will saves, that whenever you center yourself, you give yourself temporary, really low mental resistance. There are basically no feats in the game that use saving throws as prerequisites, which I think is a huge missed opportunity, as there's a lot of cool stuff there. Another fun option that's already in the system, but there's always more room for, is perception feats. Looking around at stuff is super important for adventuring, and staying alive while adventuring, but there's only a couple of feats that actually modify it. Imagine one that gave you a scent sense, or vibration sense, or something. It'd be really strong, but it could always be like a level 13 feat or something. I just want to play Daredevil, god damn it. The final type of new general feat that I'd really like to see is actually kind of similar to the Dark Archive again. In the Dark Archive, Deviant abilities and Aftermath feats were added, but taking one of those requires giving up class feats, and as such, they are balanced to be about as strong as class feats. Now, I would like, in the future, to see similar systems to Deviant abilities and Aftermath feats, except tuned to replace general feats. So you could take them to maybe get some cool basic spell-like ability, or just weird stuff could happen around you, but you didn't have to give up a class feat to do it, and they were scaled to be around as strong as a general feat. There's just a lot of interesting ideas there. You don't have to constrain yourself to general feats being just boring. So there you have my attempts at throwing together some probably unbalanced ideas for general feats. Now, I'm not expecting Paizo to put out a book that focuses just on general and skill feats anytime soon. That just simply wouldn't sell very well because it doesn't sound very interesting, and that's what matters. But that doesn't mean that these feats aren't important. I'd like to see at least some of them in the future being released in pretty much every single Paizo rulebook. Character customization and the sheer vastness of what is possible to make in Pathfinder 2e is what defines the system in my mind. And character options that can be applied to all classes and ancestries, like general and skill feats, can do so much to help the longevity of a system. Thanks for watching. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while now, but it is surprisingly hard to actually talk about it in an interesting way, because honestly, general feats and skill feats are not the most flashy thing in Pathfinder, not by a long shot. Hopefully I did it justice. What ideas for general or skill feats do you have? I'd love to see what sort of concepts you've got in a comment down below, since I'm sure that you guys have a lot of cool ones. Regardless, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.